Question number 6, Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is for the Minister responsible for Housing New Zealand Corporation. Does he agree with his statement on state houses? 1/3 of these houses are in the wrong place or are the wrong size.
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, and as recently as just last month, Housing New Zealand issued a press release that said, and I quote, around 1/3 of our housing stock is in the wrong place, wrong configuration or is mismatched with future demand.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Did he sign off the New Zealand Annual Report 2014 that says, and I quote, 96% of state houses are in the right places to meet demand and 89% have the right number of bedrooms, unquote. And if not, why is he deliberately trying to mislead the public when he knows the real figures do not support his State House sell-off?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, in response to the member raising that point, I went to find out exactly what was involved. And it turned out that Housing Corp counted those people who'd asked for transfers and subtracted them from 100%. So 96% of Housing Corp clients didn't ask for a transfer. And it was from that they derived the statement that everything about their 65,000 houses is right. Housing Corp have since retracted that statement because it was wrong.
Supplementary.
Order. I have a point of order first. Point of order, Phil Twyford.
I asked the Minister, did he sign off the Housing New Zealand Annual Report?
Order. The member asked more than one question in his question. If he wants to make progress, he might have another opportunity with a supplementary. Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
What steps is Housing New Zealand taking to reduce the mismatch of housing stock so that the needs of more vulnerable people and families can be met?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, Housing Corp has quite a major task because its houses it owns are misaligned with demand. For instance, the fastest growing demand is for 1 and 2 bedroomed houses. The demand to meet the demand, about 25% of Housing Corp stock should be 1 and 2 bedrooms. Actually, only 9% are 1 and 2 bedrooms. However, it has twice as many 3-bedroomed houses as it needs. So we have single people who live on their own currently in 3-bedroomed houses, sometimes on quite large sections, and it's not appropriate. So Housing New Zealand has an ongoing program of sales, reinvestment and redevelopment. In the 5 years to 2013-14, they spent around $1 billion on maintenance, purchased or built 1,780 properties, disposed of 3,179 properties, including some affected by the Canterbury earthquakes. I expect that this program of sales, reinvestment and redevelopment will need to accelerate because with their $18 billion worth of houses, we still can't meet very serious housing need today, which should be able to be accommodated. So we're working with the Minister of Social Housing and with Housing Corporation to speed up the rate of change.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Can he explain to the public how selling off 1/3 of state houses to community housing providers will somehow magically ensure that they become in the right place and the right size?
Honourable Bill
Mr.
English.
Speaker, of course, that's not the policy. The policy involves changes which have been through the Parliament to set up MSD as the purchaser of social housing, which will enable, for instance, ultimately it will enable providers and tenants to choose the appropriate house for their characteristics in a much more refined way than happens at the moment. The fact is that Housing Corp has a lot of houses which are currently unsuitable to meet demand, and they will sell some and they will redevelop others, such as a development on the North Shore where they're converting 11 current state houses into 70 new units. That's all being done by a developer. the government will keep 20 of those as social houses and the rest will be sold to the market.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Is the fact that, as Housing New Zealand says, 96% of state houses are in the right places to meet demand and 89% have the right number of bedrooms, is that the real reason that the government has scaled back and now shut down its much hyped right size project, which promised to build thousands of new modular bedrooms and larger houses for State House tenants?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the member's assertions are wrong. 96% of housing corp houses are not in the right place and the right size. In fact, a third of them are the wrong size in the wrong place in poor condition. Secondly, with the right size project, my understanding is it is partially completed, but due to a combination of costs and planning requirements, they're finding that the original scope of the project may not be able to be executed and it's being revised.
Point of order.
Point of order. Phil Twyford.
I seek leave, sir, to table a written parliamentary question that is not yet public that explains how the government has cut back and shut down the right size project.
The matter's been described on the basis that it's not been published. I'll put the leave aside to table this answer to a written parliamentary question. Is there any objection to that being tabled? There is. Will not be tabled. Question number 7, Alfred